In the gray dawn of a city that never slowed, Emma walked the same cracked sidewalk every morning, her breath visible in the chill. She carried a small paper bag, nothing grand, just a sandwich, an apple, and a thermos of coffee. Her destination was a weathered bench where an old man named Henry sat, his coat threadbare, his eyes distant. Emma didn't know much about him, only that his gaze held a sorrow so deep it seemed to swallow the world. Each day she left the bag beside him, sometimes slipping in a handwritten note. "You are not alone," or "Today is a new day." Henry never spoke, but his fingers would brush the note, and for a moment, his eyes softened. Emma felt a pull, a need to understand the story behind that look, but he offered no clues, and her questions hung unanswered in the air. Her coworkers at the law firm where she worked as a paralegal didn't understand. "Why waste your time on that bum?" sneered Carla, a senior associate who prided herself on efficiency. "He's probably just scamming you." Others chimed in, their voices sharp with judgment. Mark, a junior lawyer with a penchant for cruel humor, was the worst. He'd mimic Henry's slouch in the break room, tossing coins at an imaginary beggar while colleagues laughed. "You're delusional, Emma," he'd say, loud enough for everyone to hear. They warned her to steer clear, claiming Henry was dangerous, a drunk, or worse. Once Mark even followed her to the bench shouting, "Hey, Emma's got a new boyfriend," as passers-by snickered. Emma's cheeks burned, but she kept her head high, her resolve unshaken. She wasn't just helping Henry, she was searching for something. Maybe redemption, maybe truth. Henry's silence intrigued her. He wasn't like the other street dwellers who shared fragments of their lives. His hands, though dirt-streaked, were steady, and his posture, even slumped, suggested a quiet dignity. Emma noticed odd details. The way he folded her notes with care, tucking them into his coat. The faint scar above his eyebrow. The way he'd sometimes hum a melody she couldn't place. Once she saw him pause to help a child who'd dropped, a toy, his movements gentle but deliberate, like a man who'd once commanded respect. She wondered if he'd been someone important, someone who'd fallen through the cracks. The thought gnawed at her, but when she tried to ask, he'd only shake his head, his eyes clouding over. The tension peaked at Emma's firm's annual gala, a glittering event where she was to receive an award for her pro bono work. She'd invited Henry, slipping a note with the details into his bag, though she doubted he'd come. The night was a blur of champagne and congratulations, but Carla and Mark cornered her near the dessert table. "Still playing Saint for your pet hobo?" Carla sneered, her voice cutting through the chatter. Mark leaned in, his breath sour with wine. "Bet he's robbing your apartment right now." The room seemed to tilt as their words drew stares. Emma's award felt hollow in her hands, her kindness reduced to a punchline. She excused herself, stepping onto the balcony to escape the suffocating judgment. That's when she saw him. Henry stood at the edge of the venue's courtyard, his coat replaced by a tattered but clean suit jacket. He looked out of place, yet something about him commanded attention. Before Emma could approach, a commotion erupted. A group of men and women, some in military uniforms, others in suits, pushed through the crowd. Their faces were somber, purposeful. One, a woman with gray hair and a medal pinned to her chest, called out, "Colonel Harris." The name hung in the air, and Henry froze, his shoulders stiffening. The gala's noise faded as the group surrounded him, their voices thick with emotion. "We've been looking for you for years," the woman said, tears in her eyes. "You saved us." The truth unraveled in fragments. Henry, Colonel Henry Harris, was a decorated war hero, a man who'd led a covert operation that saved dozens of lives. But the mission had cost him dearly. A mistake, a miscalculation, had led to civilian casualties. Guilt had driven him from his life, his family, his honors. He'd chosen the streets, hiding from a world that no longer felt like his. The group, former soldiers, aid workers, survivors, had tracked him down after years of searching, spurred by a photo of him at Emma's bench that had gone viral online. They spoke of his bravery, his sacrifice, but also of his shame, the weight that had kept him silent. As they honored him, Henry's eyes found Emma's across the courtyard. The crowd parted, and he walked toward her, his steps unsteady but resolute. The gala guests, including Carla and Mark, stood frozen, their faces pale with shame. The woman from the group addressed the room, her voice clear. This man was lost to us, to himself, until one person saw him. Emma, your kindness, your sandwiches, your notes gave him hope. You reminded him he was human. Henry nodded, his voice rough but steady. I was ready to disappear, he said, but you wouldn't let me. He pulled a folded stack of her notes from his pocket, worn but cherished. These kept me alive. The room was silent, the weight of their words settling over everyone. Carla's eyes brimmed with tears. Mark stared at the floor, his bravado gone. Emma felt a rush of joy, not just for Henry's redemption, but for the vindication of her faith. She hadn't solved his mystery, but she'd given him a reason to. Face it, Henry for the first time smiled, a real smile, free of sorrow. He accepted the group's offer to reconnect, to heal, to live again. In the weeks that followed, the ripple effects spread. Carla volunteered at a shelter, her sharp edges softened by regret. Mark, quieter now, started carrying extra food to share with those he passed. Emma's firm launched a community outreach program, inspired by her example. Henry began speaking at veteran support groups, his story a beacon for others lost in the dark. Emma still walked that sidewalk, but now Henry joined her sometimes, both of them carrying bags for others who needed them. Her small acts of kindness had cracked open a world of judgment, revealing the humanity beneath. And in Henry's eyes she saw not sorrow, but peace.